Welcome to the Daily Globe. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. Picture Europe, united under the blue and gold of the EU, an ambitious project built on decades of peace, prosperity, and shared values. For years, the European Union has stood as a symbol of cooperation, bridging nations that once stood divided by war and ideology. Yet beneath this surface, a new crack is forming at its very core, a fault line that threatens to reshape the continent's future. Hungary, a member of both the EU and NATO, is turning away from Brussels and Washington, looking instead to China and the BRICS bloc. Prime Minister Viktor Orban is forging new partnerships that challenge the West's traditional dominance. This isn't just about trade or economics, it's about the very future of the Western alliance and the values that have held it together for generations. Hungary's choices threaten the balance of European security and open vulnerabilities for rivals to exploit. The country's pivot could undermine collective defense and create new risks for its neighbors. In Beijing, leaders see a rare opportunity to gain influence inside the West, using Hungary as a bridge for economic and political interests. In Moscow, it's a welcome disruption, an opening to weaken Western unity and expand Russian leverage in Europe. In Brussels and Washington, it's a crisis that demands urgent attention, as leaders scramble to preserve the integrity of the alliance. Hungary's pivot is part of a global realignment, from a unipolar to a multipolar world. The consequences touch everything: supply chains, technology, and the flow of investment across continents. Human rights, democratic norms, and the very idea of European identity are all at stake. Decisions made in Budapest today could redefine the EU's character for decades to come, setting precedents for other nations on the fence. Is this the start of a fragmented Europe, or can the Union adapt and stay united in the face of mounting challenges? We'll explore Hungary's Eastern opening, a strategy that's shifting the country's economic and political orientation. Its deepening ties with China are reshaping Hungary's industries, infrastructure, and even its political discourse. And its role as a persistent EU dissenter is forcing the Union to confront uncomfortable questions about unity and sovereignty. Understanding Hungary's journey is key to grasping the powerful changes reshaping our world and the uncertain future that lies ahead for Europe. To understand Hungary's present, look back to 2010, when Viktor Orban returned to power and launched the Eastern Opening. The goal: diversify Hungary's alliances beyond the West, forging ties with China, Russia, Turkey, and Central Asia. This wasn't just economic, it was ideological, rooted in the belief that Western dominance was ending. Hungary positioned itself as a bridge between East and West, asserting sovereignty and national pride. China became the cornerstone, a vast market investment source and a partner unconcerned with Hungary's democratic backsliding. Over the next decade, Hungary became China's most enthusiastic EU partner, building a new foreign policy pillar on pragmatism and self-interest. This set the stage for Hungary's current controversial role in Europe's geopolitical debates. Hungary's embrace of China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, is the clearest sign of its Eastern opening. In 2015, Hungary became the first EU country to sign on to the BRI, aiming to be China's gateway to Europe. The flagship project, modernizing the Budapest-Belgrade Railway, financed by Chinese loans and built by Chinese firms. The railway promises faster trade and economic growth, but critics warn of debt, lack of transparency, and misaligned EU standards. The project's secrecy and scale have sparked fears Hungary is serving Beijing's interests more than its own. Despite controversy, Orban's government remains committed, seeing the railway as a strategic investment and a symbol of Hungary's pivot east. This isn't just infrastructure, it's a statement. Hungary is willing to clash with Brussels to pursue its own path. The tracks between Budapest and Belgrade are forging a new, contentious direction for Hungary and Europe. Hungary's alignment with China has become a major source of friction within the EU. While the EU tries to present a united front on China, Hungary repeatedly blocks or waters down joint actions, especially on human rights and trade. Budapest has vetoed sanctions, opposed tariffs on Chinese goods, and broken EU unanimity on key foreign policy issues. The motivations: protect Chinese investments and assert national sovereignty against Brussels. Orban frames these vetoes as defending Hungary from EU overreach, fueling a broader political struggle. This defiance frustrates other EU members, paralyzing the bloc's ability to act decisively. China exploits these divisions, using Hungary as a wedge to weaken EU unity. Hungary's role as an internal spoiler raises tough questions about the future of EU foreign policy and the viability of requiring unanimity. The Union's cohesion is being tested from within. Nowhere is Hungary's defiance more consequential than on Ukraine, where the stakes for Europe's future could not be higher. Since Russia's 2022 invasion, the EU has largely stood together in support of Ukraine, except for Hungary. Time and again, Budapest has delayed and diluted sanctions and aid packages, frustrating its European partners and raising questions about the bloc's unity. Most notably, Hungary is now blocking Ukraine's EU accession talks, standing alone even as Russia itself appears to soften its stance. This single-handed obstruction has left other EU members scrambling for solutions. Officially, Budapest cites concerns for ethnic Hungarians living in Ukraine, arguing that their rights and safety must be protected. Yet many observers see this as a pretext, a way for Hungary to gain leverage for unrelated political and financial demands within the EU. Hungary's position fits into its broader strategy, condemning Russia's invasion in principle, but refusing to escalate the conflict or allow arms transfers through its territory. This stance has set Hungary apart from its NATO and EU allies. Critics accuse Hungary of acting as a Trojan horse for Moscow, using its veto power to curry favor with Russia and extract concessions from the EU. Some even warn that Budapest's actions undermine the very foundations of European solidarity. The resulting deadlock is a blow to Ukraine's hopes and a stark example of how a single member state can paralyze the EU's most important strategic objectives, leaving the bloc divided at a critical moment. Hungary's veto is more than just a bureaucratic delay. It's a direct challenge to the EU's credibility, unity, and its ability to respond to crises on its doorstep. Hungary's pivot to China fits into a larger global shift, the rise of the expanded BRICS bloc. With new members like Egypt, Iran, and the UAE, BRICS now represents nearly half the world's population and a quarter of its economy. The bloc challenges Western dominance, advocating for multipolarity and national sovereignty, values that resonate with Orban's Hungary. Hungary isn't a BRICS member, but its foreign policy aligns with the bloc's worldview, seeking alternatives to Western hegemony. By deepening ties with China, Hungary hedges its bets, gaining leverage and reducing dependence on the EU and US. This strategy positions Hungary as a bridge between East and West, but also as a challenge to Western cohesion. The post-Cold War order is no longer a given, even within the West itself. Hungary's flirtation with BRICS signals a future where alliances are more fluid and interests trump ideology. What drives Hungary's pivot? Experts point to a mix of economics, politics, and national identity. Economically, Hungary is small and export-driven. It needs access to fast-growing Eastern markets. Politically, Orban's government faces EU criticism over democratic backsliding. China and other authoritarian states offer partnership without lectures. This regime compatibility makes Eastern ties attractive for a government feeling besieged by the West. Ideologically, Orban taps into a narrative of Hungary as a proud independent nation resisting outside empires, now casting the EU as the new imperial center. This framing turns foreign policy into a patriotic struggle, resonating with many Hungarians. Ultimately, Hungary's strategy is a high-wire act balancing EU and NATO membership with deepening Eastern ties. The risk? Alienating key allies and ending up isolated if global tensions rise. It's a gamble with Hungary's future at stake. Hungary's eastern pivot offers rewards, economic investment, jobs, and political leverage in Brussels. Chinese investment has made Hungary a hub for high-tech manufacturing and green industries. By being a difficult partner, Hungary gains bargaining power over EU funds and policy. But the risks are huge: political isolation, eroding trust, and potential marginalization within the EU and NATO. Dependence on Chinese loans could lead to a debt trap, compromising sovereignty if projects underperform. Security concerns loom as Chinese firms gain access to critical infrastructure. Hungary is betting it can manage these risks, but the stakes are nothing less than its prosperity and security. The country could trade reliable Western solidarity for uncertain Eastern promises. The outcome will shape Hungary's and Europe's future. Hungary's eastward pivot is more than a foreign policy shift. It's a profound challenge to the very fabric of European unity and identity. It's a test of Europe's identity, questioning the values and principles that have held the continent together for decades. The EU's unity, its greatest strength, is under strain from within as Hungary challenges the post-Cold War consensus, pushing boundaries and testing limits. The core question: should Europe prioritize national sovereignty and transactional relationships, focusing on individual national interests, or should it reinforce alliances built on shared values and collective goals? The rise of BRICS, the ongoing war in Ukraine, and the increasing competition with China will force the EU to make tough, strategic choices that will shape its future. Hungary's actions are a warning. European unity can't be taken for granted, and the consequences of division are profound. European unity can't be taken for granted. The challenge is to manage diversity without paralysis, finding compromise and mutual respect among member states, ensuring that the union remains strong and cohesive. The debate isn't just for politicians, it's for all Europeans. Every citizen has a stake in this conversation. What does it mean to be part of an alliance? How do we balance national sovereignty with the need for collective action? These are questions that will define the future of Europe. Where's the balance between sovereignty and collective action? Hungary's path is a test case with consequences far beyond its borders. The decisions made today will echo through generations. The stakes for Europe's future and the New World Order couldn't be higher. The path forward requires wisdom, courage, and unity. The stakes for Europe's future and the New World Order couldn't be higher.